Good morning, everybody. Just to welcome you to Helen Connor, who will be doing a talk today, and Helen's from Astro Innovation. So handing this over to you, Helen, and really looking forward to what you have to tell us. Thank
you, Debs. Thank you. Right. Yes, I'm Helen Connor, and my business is called Astro Innovation, based near Kendal in Cumbria. And I wanted to speak to you this morning about working in a new way with a 50-50 split. So what do I mean by a 50-50 split? It's when people's opinion, the popular opinion, is divided into two groups, two tribes, us and them. It's antagonistic. Do you remember 4 years ago? We had Brexit. We had leave or stay. We had American politics. We had Hillary or we had Trump. And in both cases, we had 50-50 splits. The thing about a 50-50 split historically is that nobody ever wins. If it's right down the middle or 49-51, which some of those were, people don't change their minds. It just goes on and on in adversarial relationships. There's never a winner. It's never resolved. Hillary won the popular vote and Trump won the election. Brexit is still not resolved, far from it. I think we're moving toward a new 50-50 split. And I'm really, really hoping that we can do something different with it this time, rather than getting into the situation where nobody wins, because then nobody wins. Let's take the virus just as an example. Not that this is a talk about the virus, it is not, but I'm using it as an example. There are people saying the virus is true and we need to be careful. There are people saying the virus is a hoax, it's fake news. We have people saying everybody is susceptible to this, and others are saying only the old die from it. There are those saying we should isolate, and there are those saying we shouldn't isolate. Some say cover your face, and others say don't bother. Some say hand sterilizers every 3 minutes. Others say that's a hoax. Some say stay at home, and others say let's have a party out in the street. There's what I consider to be a worrying astrological pattern developing. And when I say astrological, that means it's not local, it's not regional, it's not national, it's global. Everybody's going to get involved in this. Also, when I say astrological, I don't in any way mean that the planets are doing anything to us. They're not causing it. I particularly like the word stellar scription. It says we can read in the stars and in the star patterns. We can read the story of what's going on Earth. Not that it's been caused by the stars. And it's a huge distinction, which I don't think is made often enough. There's a big story being told in the sky at the moment. It's a big backdrop, which I've spoken about a number of times at Roots meetings and in other places. It's the story of evolution, a story of our need for evolution and the time for evolution, and that the stakes are really high. Riding on top of this underpinning that stands behind current events, on the top of it is riding a new possibility of a 50-50 split. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. But first, let me just review briefly the underlying evolutionary pattern that's going on. First of all, we're not going to return to normal, to normal. There isn't a normal anymore to return to. The I that was in existence before this all started is moving on. The you that was there before this started is moving on. We're evolving as the planetary makeup is evolving, and we'll be different. So I don't know. It almost even seems boring to think that we'll go back to exactly the way we were, because as you realize, it was none too good. But the review, way out on the edge of our solar system, way out, there's what we call the outer planets, and they're circling around our sun in our solar system. And those outer planets deal exclusively with the collective, all of us together. And there are three principal cycles. Briefly, one is called the cycle of renewal, renewal of structures and systems. That is, any structure or system that has outlived its creative usefulness, that's way past its best by date, that is so corrupt that it's irretrievable, is going to collapse, to die, to go away, making room for something new to be born out of what was. That's what I mean by renewal, that death and rebirth. That's one. The second is the one I call the Great Diffusion. And it has to do with the interconnectedness of absolutely everything, without differentiation, without boundaries. It's something that your wealth, your gender, your beauty, in this case, doesn't separate you from the diffusion. It's a very confusing element, and for sure deals with a virus that doesn't play favorites. And the third process that's going on is the one I call sudden thunder and lightning. It's a revitalization and a revolution of global values. What we think is important, what we thought was important up until this past spring, might in the long run turn out for you to not be important at all, or it was important then, it's not important anymore. So those are the three big story evolutionary processes that we're all subjected to. Now, on top of that, like a blip on the surface of that overall evolutionary dynamic, is this astrological pattern that I think is worth talking about and worth looking at. As the outer planets, right out there at the edge of our solar system, deal with the collective, the inner planets deal with individuals. The inner planets are the sun and the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And they deal with things that are specific to ourselves. Starting in December, 2 months from now, just pretty much exactly 2 months from now, 6 out of those 7 personal planets are going to start moving into the portion of the zodiac that we call Aquarius, which is all about freedom. And all of us are going to learn something about our relationship with freedom during that next period of time. Freedom includes things like rebelliousness, inventiveness, the revolutionary, innovative, big ideas with big earth-changing concepts behind them. Freedom says things like, don't fence me in, don't fence me out. I belong to live here too. I have a right to safety. I have a right to health. I have a right to food, to education. I have a right to it. I have a right to a job. I have a right to hear the truth. I have a right to my own beliefs. I have a right to how I look, my own appearance. I have a right to be myself. It also goes on to say, I have a right to shut you out. I have a right to my feelings. Can you imagine millions of people on this planet saying and thinking this starting in December? And all this riding on the surface of those three big evolutionary dynamics. There'll be a widespread craving and demand for personal freedom. I think this is worth getting concerned about. So what happens to safety? What happens to discipline? What happens to care and caution? Here's the 50-50 split. Freedom on the one hand, discipline on the other. Freedom and discipline. I know people who are standing firmly each on those two sides. I'm sure you know people. You may be one yourself who is standing firmly on one of those two sides of this split. Again, I want to say that in a 50-50 split in opinions, neither side can win. A very wise woman who happened to have been my first astrology teacher used to say about Capricorn and Aquarius particularly, freedom without discipline. Freedom without discipline is license, not liberty. I don't know if she invented that saying herself or if she picked it up from another wise person. Freedom without discipline is license, not liberty. However, it looks to me like we're on the way into this situation. And what I have to say is let's not put up with it. Let's not put up with this as 50-50 splits have already gone. Let's do something new. Here's my idea. And I want you to work with me at shifting the arena of activity, shifting the field of play, not letting this go the way 50-50 splits always have gone. And I want you to have some fun with this as well, to make it a game, practice it, add some levity. Now, I happen to be a very analytical person, and the process that I'm going to suggest to you to use with this upcoming 50-50 split, or even ongoing, I've got an analytical model because that's how my mind works. And I'm suggesting to you that you take the concept that I'm about to present to you and develop it along ways that are more suitable to yourself than analysis. But here's my model, and use it as you can. Take a pair of polar opposites, a polar pair, and work with it. Masculine and feminine, leave, stay. Republican, Democrat, activity, rest. take a pair of polar opposites like that, and under each one, each side of this polarity, list the absolutely best positive fundamental qualities of each one. List them all down. And then put the two lists side by side. And notice where there are points of common ground between the two. I don't want you to use names. I don't want you to put down pros and cons. I want you to put down the positive, most positive qualities of Republican, most positive qualities of Democrat, or whatever polarity you've chosen. Look for the common ground. Look for any harmony that exists in each list of positive qualities, or even the possibility of harmony, and create something new. Create something new. Focus on the common themes and the points of coming together. And then do it again with another pair of polar opposites, another polar pair. Constantly looking for the harmony and the common ground. Never heard anybody mention this as a practice before. I think we should use anything we can to not sink into the animosity that comes with a 50-50 split. Now, I would invite your comments in the comment box. Deb said she will post my contact details there for anyone to see. I would love to hear from you. I would love your feedback. I would love to see how you might use or extend this suggestion. All the best.